All right, everybody, welcome to a special edition of Teaching Crypto. Hit that like, subscribe, bell notification. As always, super sats in the shore are open. We are getting closer, MrFOMO, to 2,000 subs. Help us get there. We appreciate all your support. Rob Gronkowski, also known as Gronk, famous NFL tight end, fresh off a Tom Brady roast, just settled with Voyager customers. We want to make sure that the Voyager people out there don't get confused because it's easy to nowadays. He settled, and we can share the information here because some people have been talking about it online. And that money, MrFOMO, is not actually going to Voyager customers. We want to make sure people are aware of that, as I can get that up here in a second. Why don't you explain to the viewers where that money actually is going?
My understanding is that money is going to the class action lawsuit that is being run by a firm, I believe, out of Miami. I contacted them earlier. It seems there was a bunch of question, or there was some question as to whether or not it was a legitimate lawsuit, but apparently it is, because they've gotten Gronk to agree to pay 1.9 to settle it, or at least settle his portion of it. And so yeah, it's not going to Paul Hage and the wind down administrators. And so this is not something that's going to be, we're not getting an additional 1% on our distributions. So I don't want people to be confused when that happens, because this is a separate class action lawsuit. And the information to that class action lawsuit should be in the description below. We put it in there a while back. So if you wanted to contact them and get in on that, or at least give them your information to see if you can get in on that, the information is below.
Yeah, and they're still going after Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, Victor Oladipo, another former NBA player, race car driver, NASCAR, Landon Castle, also involved there. And so, yes, that's important. This is not going to the estate. As far as third parties from the estate, we've gotten limited information. We'll see. Hopefully, I'm hoping for July, not August, but we'll just have to wait and see. Let's cross our fingers and hope the next distribution does come sooner rather than later, because the market is still in recovery mode. We are now going, MrFOMO, 7 weeks tomorrow since we were at 74K, which honestly really surprises me a little bit. I still believe we're not going to be down for all of May, June, and most of July, but we'll just wait and see. You got to have a plan either way. But I think it's important to understand, if you're a Voyager customer, this stuff is not going to you. FTX, on the other hand, they released that their customers supposedly are scheduled to get over 100%, but that's misleading, because that 100% is based on where Bitcoin used to be during bankruptcy, right? So Bitcoin has gone up considerably. And so that technically then that is the reason for the recovery going up. If you remember, when we got our recovery, Voyager customers, Bitcoin was around 30K. And so if the estate is holding a lot of Bitcoin, that makes a significant difference in the recovery. So we just want to explain that there.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about that, because they look at FTX and they see that their CEO is in jail doing 25 years. And they look and they're getting 118% back, allegedly. It hasn't gone through the Delaware bankruptcy court yet, but once it gets approved, they should get 118% of their claim back, right? Not what they had at the height of their portfolio, but of their claim at the end. But you're right, the Bitcoin has made a big difference. But to me, I think the question is, why go after Sam Bankman-Fried so hard, and none of the other CEOs or none of the other administrators in some of these other companies? And so for me, and for a lot of other people, that's the question. How is Stephen Ehrlich and the administrators of Voyager getting away with what they did to their customers when Sam Bankman-Fried?
We don't want to beat around a dead horse. We're about recovery, about moving forward, but They were not honest with their customers. They even tried to sell a VGX 2.0 token on a back then it was Twitter, now it's X, obviously Space, when they knew there was a good chance the customers were going to be facing bankruptcy. It's very at the least, if it's not illegal, it's immoral, and there should be some type of shame. Ehrlich has never taken any accountability at all, zero. Just he's handled this disgustingly as a human being, and I'll continue to say that. We're moving on the show. We're not going to focus on Steve Ehrlich that much, but he still is, in my opinion, a horrible human being and has taken zero accountability. And I'll stand by that, and I'll keep saying that over and over again. I want to talk about a big story in crypto, and actually, I am an Ohio State alum, Mr. FOMO. So this, look, so no, I didn't wear this. Well, I kind of go, look, all right. So this perfect. With I wanted to talk about this on the show because people are missing the point of this, right? This is one where, this is one where. Okay, so it doesn't look great that he said that he had to take drugs to write the speech. Okay. But the speech itself about financial literacy and, how debt is just out of control and inflation is out of control and how Bitcoin helps people handle that. That's a good speech. It's just unfortunately, I don't think um, it shows actually what it shows is people still don't really understand Bitcoin and they're too lazy. And that's why shows like this are important. I think they're too lazy to understand it because if you just talk to someone pure mathematically and you talk about inflation, you talk about how much dollars have been printed over the past 5 years, how many dollars will be printed over the next 15 to 20 years, and the fact that Bitcoin is set, right? There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever. A lot of it is lost forever. You see the people that hold it. Mathematically, Bitcoin will go up versus the dollar. Yes, it is volatile. Yes, there are periods where it goes down, like these last 7 weeks. But over 4 years, and granted, it's only been 14 years, if you hold Bitcoin for 4 years, you will see a significant improvement in the ability to spend your dollar, right? $1,000 5 years ago is not actually worth $1,000 now. Your spending power has gone down. But if you put $5,000 into Bitcoin 8 years ago, your spending power has gone significantly up. And that, I think, was the intention of the speech. Unfortunately, the idea he had to do drugs to write the speech kind of took things away. Ohio State, actually, believe it or not, has a pro Bitcoin president, and he's catching heat for this speech. But it just shows us that we're super early, right? There are still people that watch the show or hear about the show and think, well, what are these guys talking about? It's all fake. They still don't comprehend that all of crypto and Bitcoin are not the same thing, right? And it just shows how much education is still needed in Bitcoin.
Absolutely, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The title here does an injustice to the speech because the speech makes a lot of sense. The fact that it links the psychedelic drugs to Bitcoin, I think, does no does no favors to Bitcoin and those of us who are into crypto. But I think you're right. I think when you look at the fact that the money printers are never going to turn off in the U.S., we're always going to be printing money. The U.S. has a mountain of debt,
and it continues to go up. And
right, that at some point is going to have to be dealt with. It only makes sense to put your money into assets. Because like you said, 8 years ago, if you had money in savings or money in Bitcoin or money in any crypto, your money in your savings account would have decreased in its value, right? Your buying power has gone down over the last 8 years. But if you're talking about Bitcoin, your buying power has gone way up.
mm-hmm.
So I think that you're right. The point of the speech is lost because he had to do some sort of psychedelic to be able to write it. And I don't think it's probably necessary to say that in your speech, even if that is part of your speech writing process, which I don't recommend as an English teacher. But
Not even. Not,
But the point of the speech was that assets will continue to go up if the U.S. continues to treat the dollar the way that it does. And I think that's the important point to take from it.
Well, I mean, I'm pulling up the chart right here. Let's just click on a random date. How about 2016, Mr. FOMO? You want to look at that?
Yeah,
What was the
8 years
price of
ago.
Bitcoin? What was the price of Bitcoin in July of 2016? You want to take a guess?
I don't remember.
$558.
Right.
Okay? Right. Okay. Would you rather have $558 in a savings account back then, or would you rather have put it into Bitcoin? Now, you've had to keep your Bitcoin safe and deal with frauds like Stephen Ehrlich, but that's a whole nother situation. That's where the industry has to do better. And I think we have now much more better education in terms of cold storage, things like River Financial and other services where you can store your Bitcoin in a much safer place. But right now, that $500 has 62,000 US dollars worth of spending. Right now, what you could get for $500 in 2016 versus what you could get for $500 now is very, very different. Go to your grocery store right now and spend $500. Go to your grocery store and think about a trip in 2016 and think about how much you could have spent. You could have pretty much fed the neighborhood for a few days for $500. Now you're probably talking about a barbecue that lasts you a couple days for that $500. I'm being a bit sarcastic here, but that is the point, and that's just 6 years. What about, and these kids are in college, what about 10, 15, 20 years from now? And so that by the way, a lot of 20-year-olds that are wealthy do hold Bitcoin. So I think the people that are mocking this speech, yes, it's unfortunate, the headline, but they're missing the point. And my question to them is, have you done any research? And do you understand that this financial system that the US has right now, I'm not going to try to get political here, is not sustainable for the average person to save and live the same way they did in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and even 10 years ago. It's not. And so Bitcoin actually is necessary for a lot of people because not everyone is making $300,000, $400,000 and they can just stash away $100,000 into savings. It would be great if that was a situation. But there are a lot of people that watch the show that are not in that situation.
Yeah, and it's a logical fallacy to assume that because someone does one thing wrong, that everything that they do is wrong. So
Absolutely.
you can throw that out the window. The guy made a bad choice in his speech writing process, but the idea behind the speech is still really good.
Well, and I think 20 years from now, the people that were laughing at that speech, if they decided to
I think 8
ignore,
years from now they'll probably delete their
yeah.
tweet.
Forget about 20. 4 years from now, when Bitcoin hits 1 million, I just wonder if and it will happen, guys. It will happen in our lifetime. I just wonder what these guys are going to say. Oh, by the way, when Bitcoin hits 100,000 in 2025 or end of 2024, I'm wondering what these guys are going to say. I'm just curious,
They'll just delete their tweets and pretend like they never said it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you go back, Bitcoin was laughed at 2010. People didn't understand it. Bitcoin was laughed at 2014. People didn't understand it. We remember this in 2018. People laughed at Bitcoin, and people are still laughing at Bitcoin. But the reality is, Bitcoin will get the last laugh. You know what Michael Saylor says: people deserve Bitcoin at the price that they get it. Right? So we will see what happens over the next 4 years. But my advice to those people is do a little research and go beyond the surface. And that is a huge problem. People don't want to research. People don't want to watch shows like this. And granted, we talk more than just Bitcoin, but we've said these alts are very unreliable. Right? They're hit or miss. But I just wanted to get that off my chest. And I think we should wrap this up now. But thank you guys so much for your support. Please hit that like, subscribe, bell notification, and have a great day, everybody.
See you.